Ministers in charge of trade and digital economy from G20 countries have adopted guiding principles for the appropriate use of artificial intelligence, or AI. The ministers issued a statement last week as they ended day one of their two-day meeting in Tsukuba, north of Tokyo. They agreed on AI principles, a first for the G20. The principles note that people might lose jobs because of AI, and ethical problems, such as discrimination, could arise if data are biased. They presented the idea of human-centric AI, calling on countries to use AI in a way that respects human rights and share the benefits brought by it. The ministers also confirmed that, as data flows grow globally, it is important to secure trust related to privacy and security based on domestic and international laws. Japan's communications minister, Masatoshi Ishida, told reporters it is very significant that the delegates agreed on human-centric AI principles. He expressed hope that countries will further discuss what a future AI-based society should be like. Trade Ministers Hiroshige Seko said participants shared the view that free flows of data will lead to development of the whole world, including developing countries.
データの自由な流通が促進されることでですね、途上国を含めた世界経済全体の発展成長につながる。
Singapore seafood traders can generate savings of at least 10 to 20% when they buy and sell products on a new online platform. The seafood exchange marketplace will help traders assess supply and demand, simplify their work processes, and give them a leg up in expanding overseas. Every day, as much as 300 tons of chilled fish are supplied across Singapore. That's the weight of around 300 cars. But sometimes there's an oversupply. And since fish are perishable products, seafood traders are forced to sell the excess at a loss. That's one challenge the seafood exchange marketplace aims to solve. It allows seafood suppliers to indicate their volume for the day so buyers can compare prices and place orders. So far, 35 seafood traders have taken the lead in joining the platform, with another 45 expected to come on board by mid-2020. Traders can also cut costs through the platform by doing away with paper records and removing the need for salespeople to sell their catch. The idea is to actually broaden the space for many of our traditional businesses, especially those in the seafood industry, to actually leverage on digital technology to tap into a larger market. Singapore is making to restructure and transform its economy, as well as to encourage Singapore businesses and business leaders to invest in technology, innovate and explore other overseas markets amid a rapidly changing global environment.
For many of our traditional businesses, especially those in the seafood industry in this case, to actually leverage on this.
Construction has been completed on South Korea's longest undersea tunnel. Both tubes of the Boryong undersea tunnel have been penetrated 7 years after ground was first broken for the project. The tunnel links the Chunhang port in Boryong, Cheongcheongnam-do province and Wonsando Island on the West Sea. Excavation work began on both sides of the tunnel in November 2012. The tube bound for Wonsando was penetrated this February, and the other tube is now also opened. The entire construction took 7 years. At 6,927 meters, the Boryong Tunnel is the world's 5th longest underwater tunnel. Locally, it's about 1.5 kilometers longer than the Incheon-Bukang Tunnel, the previous record holder at 5.46 kilometers. As the tunnel is constructed as deep as 80 meters below sea level, a number of technologies were required to ensure safety and to prevent seawater leakage. The thickness of the concrete is greater than ground tunnels at over 40 centimeters, and concrete strength has also been raised. One amazing feat was having excavators that began work from the opposite sides meet exactly at the tunnel's center. Once road construction connecting Boryong and Taein is completed, travel time will be drastically reduced from the current 90 minutes to just 10 minutes.
Guangzhou and Shenzhen share the same concern when it comes to traffic.
Chinese southern cities of Guangzhou and Shenzhen recently issued a new policy to ease car ownership restrictions as a move to boost the automobile industry. Like other megacities in China, Guangzhou and Shenzhen share the same concern when it comes to traffic. The two cities currently limit the number of new license plates issued each year, set at 120,000 and 100,000 respectively. For the current auto market, based on local government figures, quota restrictions have led to a decline in vehicle purchases. In the first quarter of the year, retail sales of automotive goods in Guangdong fell by 7.7% year-on-year, seeing a decline of 17.5 percentage points. Since 2018, the purchase and sales of passenger cars in China have declined significantly, and there has been no fundamental improvement this year. So the two cities issued the policy that from June to December this year, a total of 180,000 license plates will be added to both cities. On June 6th, China's National Development and Reform Commission, NDRC, also issued a policy stating local governments shall not impose restrictions on the use and purchase of new energy vehicles, and restrictions that are already in place shall be cancelled. The two cities' new policy changes could set an example for other cities in China in terms of boosting sales and providing a mode of transportation for locals. But at the same time, they will have to balance this with considerations for traffic congestion, while also taking into account transportation infrastructure.
Transportation for locals. But at the same time, they will have to balance this with concerns of traffic congestion.
Meanwhile, China will apply stricter emission standards, known as the GB6 national standards, on light-duty vehicles in key regions starting on July 1st, following a plan to gradually improve its environment and tackle air pollution. The GB6 standards are ultimately 50% more tighter on carbon monoxide CO emission compared with the previous GB5 standard in its final phase of the GB6B, and also require much lesser emissions of the total hydrocarbon emissions THC, non-methane hydrocarbon emissions and MHC, as well as emissions of nitrogen oxides NOx and particulate matter PM. Therefore, a transitional set of GB6A standards will also be introduced. The country is scheduled to adopt the GB6A standards by July 1st of 2020 and the GB6B by 2023 at the national level, according to an action plan of the State Council, the Cabinet. However, some key regions, including populated city clusters, are expected to enforce the GB6 by July 1st, 2019, in a few cases straight to the GB6B based on their own environmental tasks, which means new vehicles must meet the new standards to be eligible to apply for a license plate in those regions. These regions collectively account for 60% of China's car sales by the calculation of the China Automobile Dealers Association. The adoption of the new standards does pose some difficulties for regional car dealerships. Many are busy disposing of their inventories of GB5 cars at a losing price. The major challenge facing Vietnam's agricultural products is brand recognition. If the quality of Vietnam's agricultural products does not meet the market's requirements, farmers will find it hard to build their brands and become licensed to export their products to foreign markets. For this reason, Vietnamese farmers need to change their perspective and comply with the market's demands. Apart from being free from chemical pesticides, these mangoes are also covered in paper bags to protect them from pests. This is why Vietnamese mangoes are able to stay fresh and retain their beautiful yellow or green colors as required by customers. To achieve this result, Vietnam's Plant Protection Department has been working with the local mango cooperatives. Nearly 100 agricultural cooperatives in Son La province have been working with dozens of large corporations and companies. Their cooperation has helped farmers export their products to many foreign markets. China is one of the most selective markets in terms of agricultural imports. They require high quality and safe agricultural products with clear origin traceability. However, China has been making an effort to become more self-sufficient in agricultural production. This will be a challenge for Vietnamese farmers to export their products in the future. Currently, only 9 types of Vietnamese fruits have been licensed for export to China. This leads to the surplus of other agricultural products such as durian. A Tokyo company is planning a new kind of tourist experience, exploring the undersea world from inside a submersible capsule. With a so-called sea balloon, passengers can enjoy a meal and other activities, complemented by a watery 360-degree view. The venture firm Ocean Spiral is teaming up with other businesses, including Japan's leading travel agency JTB and a subsidiary of major Japanese airline ANA Holdings. Travelers will first board a ship where they will enter the acrylic capsule. It will be lowered into the sea with a weight attached. The ship will pull it around using a cable. Up to 5 people can explore the wonders of the ocean to depths of up to 100 meters. Each ride will last for about 30 minutes. Ocean Spiral says the passengers will not require special training or oxygen cylinders. Manufacturing the capsules will be outsourced to a U.S. submarine maker. Service in Japan and other countries is scheduled from 2021.
オーシャンスペースシップって呼んでるんですけども、まさに海の中を目指すロケットのようなものだと、よく僕はお話しさせていただいているんですけども、シップ制度に投資したいという話は当然いただいているので、そちらに関してはいただいてはいるものの、これからしっかりとそれに成果を出していかないという観点と、やはりサービスを開始。
Tighter checks will be carried out on containers across all ports to ensure that no banned plastic waste enters the country. Customs Director General Padi Abdul Halim said they were working with the National Solid Waste Management Department and the Department of Environment to combat the smuggling of plastic waste into Malaysia. The plastic waste issue came to light when the media reported on hundreds of containers in Port Klang were found to contain the illegal waste brought into the country in 10 operations carried out by the authorities. Meanwhile, Minister of Energy, Science, Technology, Environment and Climate Change, Yeo Bee Yin, said the 60 containers of plastic waste brought into the country illegally on 20th May would be sent back to their countries of origin. She said 10 out of the 60 containers, weighing 450 metric tons, was plastic waste from various countries like China, the United States, Australia, Japan, Canada, Saudi Arabia, and the United Kingdom. Malaysia is among the countries that import recyclable plastic waste, and so far 62 companies have been issued approved permits AP by the National Solid Waste Management Department to bring in and process plastic scraps in the country. Papua New Guinea's Conservation and Environment Protection Authority, SEPA, has revealed that discussions have been made with industries on the total ban of plastic bags and are waiting for legal advice from the state solicitor on how to go forward to ban plastic bags. Since the announcement of the ban, SEPA has been in discussion with industries on how to go forward with the ban as well as substitutes for plastic bags. Managing Director of Conservation and Environment Protection Authority, Gunther Joku, says there is currently a restriction on import of non-biodegradable plastic bags into Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea's former Minister for Environment and Conservation, Mr. John Pundari, who was at the forefront on talks of the total ban on plastic bags throughout the country, said the department is waiting for legal advice from the state solicitor on how to go forward with the ban.
At the present time, we are waiting on an advice from the state solicitor to guide us forward, because we have permitted certain manufacturers of plastic shopping bags in the country with permits from 22 to about 25 years. And it's
The 31st Chinese naval escort fleet has wrapped up its 5-day friendly visit to Australia and left Sydney. Chinese and Australian officials, officers, as well as representatives of overseas Chinese and Australian navies arrived at the military harbour of Garden Island to see the Chinese fleet off at around 1 p.m. During the visit, commanding officers of the fleet met respectively with the commander of the Australian Navy Fleet, the Speaker of the Upper House, New South Wales, and other Australian military and political leaders. The Chinese Naval Fleet also held an open-day activity holding a deck reception of the Kunludshan frigate. The fleet officers played football and basketball with their Australian counterparts. Every time the Chinese Navy visits, I will get on board frigates, so I've been on many frigates. I think this year's visit is of significant meaning, as this year marks the 70th anniversary of the founding of People's Republic of China. I also watched the videos about the 70th anniversary of PLA Navy, and I was so excited. I hope that our motherland and our Navy can be stronger, said Sun Chi, head of Hangzhou Association of Australia of Frigates on Sea.